And we're live. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. Welcome to Partner Matrix. We're excited to have you. It's our monthly or more than monthly web series. So today we've got a really great group. We've got BD Methods and the founders and the principals of that organization, Chip LeBlanc and David Canavan. Hey guys, why don't you introduce yourselves really fast?
Sure. Hey, Vaughn, thank you. And looking forward to this session. Chip LeBlanc, been doing business and channel development for 30 plus years, most of my career, and founded BD Methods as a fractional channel development service company 7 years ago with my partner, David Canavan. David?
Hi everyone, David Canavan here. Yep, I'm the other principal and founder of BD Methods. I've been doing channel stuff just about my entire adult life. I've been with many startups and had some great exits, and even went through an IPO, which was a lot of fun. Even Chip and I have also helped some large corporations, but both of us have been executives in a number of different companies and been as part of teams that were as small as 2 people up to almost 30 people. Managing teams that big for larger partner organizations. Back to you,
Wow,
Ryan.
that's great. Okay, so here's what I'd like you to do. Tell us a little bit about BD Methods. What is that? What makes you special? What makes you unique? What's your ideal customer profile so that we can kind of
Sure.
understand where you guys are coming from?
Sure. It's interesting. BD Methods, we founded 7 years ago, a little over 7 years ago. David and I had a business plan we had put together to basically say, hey, let's take our experiences, our knowledge, document them, and deliver them as a service for primarily C plus, Series A, Series B sized technology companies who uh, basically are looking to expand their business through a channel strategy. And a lot of these times, what we found is that the channel strategy is really developed by a founder and CRO who don't necessarily have a lot of experience there, but they may have contacts and they may know somebody at some large potential partner, but they don't necessarily have a process or a rigor around delivering and creating a channel program and strategy. So what we do is we bring that rigor, that practice, and those best practices to helping those clients begin to build that strategy and execute on it. And I would say our secret sauce is a couple of things. One is we've been doing this a long time, so we have a network that we can leverage of potential partners and partner ecosystems that we can help accelerate the channel process and the channel strategy for our clients. And the other key thing is that we do a lot of the execution as well. We just don't come in and deliver a recommendation. We get embedded into the organization and we become part of their team, own emails, own polo shirts, the whole bit. And we execute on the strategy that we help them create.
Huh. That's a really unique value proposition and business proposition. Frankly, the most of the people that I see in your space have a tendency to consult on the other end of that spectrum. So you've got folks that have just gotten their seed money or Series ABC.
Yeah.
David, how do you know? How do these guys know when they should even start to think about indirect models and channel and all of that stuff that gets wrapped around partnerships?
So yeah, I think the earlier the better because it's much more difficult once I think you've built a larger direct organization to implement a channel into the middle of that, because then you've got to deal with, is this a threat to me as a direct salesperson? How do I work with these channel partners? How do I compensate for this? Do I get a bigger quota? It's all kinds of different types of issues you have to deal with. So I think it's earlier the better.
Mm.
However, the most important thing, as Chip started to talk about earlier, is that you develop a strategy and a plan before you run into building a channel organization. Because
So,
yeah, go ahead.
No, all I was going to say is that so wanting revenue isn't enough.
No, absolutely not. No. So you have to really set the expectations, get the executive alignment in
Hmm.
place that you need. From there, you need to have commitment and conviction that the
Hmm.
channel is what you're going to do. And then we'll talk about this over and over again. It's a lot of perseverance that's involved in building a channel organization. It doesn't happen overnight. First, you've got to find the right channel partners. You got to ramp them up, and then it takes them time then to go and execute on the sales that normally your direct people would be doing. And it's going to take them a little bit longer. It's not all they do all day, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, so Chip, the CEO walks in and he says, "I can build the direct sales thing. It's what I've done all my life. I
Hmm.
understand that. Um, this thing called partnerships or channel, I know that there's incremental revenue attached to it. I mean, the research set suggests it's somewhere between 25 to 40% incremental research or
Right.
incremental
Right.
revenue. Um, w- how do they measure it? What are the key objectives? If that CEO says, I just want that revenue, that's not enough. So they build out the program. What should their goals be in all of
Yeah,
this?
yeah, that's a great conversation that we always have with our clients, and it really is. Again, David mentioned alignment as well. It's sitting down with the CEO, with the CRO, with the founder, and really getting them aligned and sitting down and saying, okay, what are the revenue expectations? We all got to be aligned on that because you know, getting revenue out of a channel takes time and perseverance. So everybody needs to understand that. You can't go in and start a program and then look at revenue coming 2 months later, right? You've got to build it. But then what you can do as other KPIs, right, is okay, let's start with generated leads and think about pipeline development through partners and invest in that channel, that portion of the channel program, right, where you're
Mhm.
getting engaged with the partner folks on your partnership side, and then really think about that versus the opportunity cost, and then finally getting aligned again around amount of time to see the return.
Yeah, and I think to build on that as well, so on the opportunity cost side of it, it could be it's not always lead generation. It could be I just need fulfillment help. In other words, I've got a lot of deals
Mhm.
coming in that we don't have enough people and arms and legs to deal with this. So it could be I need the channel partners for fulfillment more than I
Yeah,
need them for lead
right,
generation. I
Mm,
mean, that's a
that's
great spot to
interesting.
be in, but it's possible.
yeah,
That changes. I'm a little bit off script here, but the that changes who you need to go after on your partnership side of things in terms of where they're fitting in that whole mix.
yeah.
That's
How
right.
does an early stage organization attract the partners that matter for them? I mean, given that they're so new and so few people really understand them.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think what we do as a company, as coming in and being channel execs for a company, is we'll create what we call a partner taxonomy. And what that takes into consideration is the joint value prop going both ways.
Mhm.
What do we have to offer this channel partner? And conversely, what does that channel partner have to offer us? And we actually list out all the different elements to that joint value prop, and then we weight it. We say, okay, based on this one got this many greens, this one got this many yellows, this one got this many reds, we'll say this is the partner category that's most appropriate for you.
Mm. That's really interesting because it seemed like that the power, if there is a power in the whole thing, used to sit with the vendors, and it's really kind of shifted towards the partners, so that the partners kind of control whether or not they want to get involved with those vendors, who they want to get involved with, who they want to support, because everyone's sort of pounding away at them all day
It's
Sure.
long now.
super interesting you say that because at some of the companies where I ran the channel programs, we charged money to become part of the program.
Wow.
So, as a vendor, we could say, "Oh, you have to pay $25,000 a year if you want to be a channel partner." And you're right. I think the tables have turned for sure.
Yeah.
the table, when you're dealing with the C plus, the A's, the B's, again, back to what David said, you really got to, again, figure out where that value impact is that you, as the vendor, can bring to that partner. What white space are you filling in their solution stack? What's going to help drive maybe more services? Will it drive more services revenue for them? So you really got to think about it. And this is where, again, a lot of companies get a little bit sideways, is that they're always thinking about, what can the partner do for me?
Yeah.
As the vendor, you've got to say, okay, listen, we got to feed that beast a little bit, and we've got to tell them, and we got to figure out where the value is that we bring to them, and then, really kickstart that partnership too. A lot of times, and David and I always say this, is that it's always great to bring that channel partner an opportunity before they bring you one.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's got to be bidirectional. Okay,
Yes.
so depending on who I've talked to, or the stuff that I've read, those startups have a pretty high failure rate. The number I've got here is 75%. Does that seem about accurate to you guys?
That's probably right. You're talking about venture-backed startups. Yeah, it's probably a pretty high failure rate.
So I'm sure that the partner programs have a similar kind of failure rate. Are they failing because the business fails, or are they failing because the program sucks?
Well, it's two different things, right? So I
Yeah.
would say, if the business fails, of course it's 100% failure in your channel program, right?
Yep.
However, the reason channel programs fail is literally because, and this is what we see the most often with our clients and prospects, is that there is no strategy or no plan. So what happens is, inevitably the CEO goes, I know somebody, my buddy's over at Microsoft, let's go work with Microsoft. And the CRO says, well, I know somebody at Cisco, let's go work with Cisco. And the next thing you know, they've got these disparate partners that there's no organization to it. And that's the number one reason we see channel programs fail. The other is they don't have executive alignment. So there's no, like Chip said earlier, there's no KPIs put in place for what you want to get out of the channel program. We're working with the wrong partners. Oh, we've signed up 80 resellers this year. Aren't we great? And at the end of the year, 10 are producing. Well, why didn't you just sign up 10? Then you don't have to nurture those other 70, right? So that's the other issue. And then the other thing that Chip and I have found in our experience is it's so important, even when you have a strategy and plan, to test market it. Go out there and talk to those key partners that you think are the low-hanging fruit for you, and make sure you're right. If you keep going down that path, you may be executing on the wrong plan and strategy. So it's not going to be perfect, and you may have to course correct on your strategy and plan.
Well, that ideal partner profile is one of the keys. I mean, you talked about it as a taxonomy, and I think that's spot on. If you have no transacting partners, you can have a program that never does anything.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yep.
So we know that when you look at these startups, they eventually hit a point where they can't hire enough direct salespeople to keep up with the projected growth that's expected of them. The CEO or the CRO knows that they should start up a partner program, but beyond that, I mean, unless they've been in a role like you guys are in, they may not know what those benefits to that program would be for their business other than the revenue. And really, they don't understand the risks. So what are the risks and benefits of spinning those programs up, other than that they might just fail?
Yeah, I think the benefit of spinning a program up from scratch is that you first get to do an assessment. So very rarely, but on some occasions, Chip and I will go, this is such a complex piece of software that only a direct salesperson or a founder would know how to sell it and implement it. So maybe you really don't have a good channel opportunity. So the first thing to do is do an assessment of the opportunity. That's the first thing that we do as a company. The second thing is, again, build the strategy, build the plan, You get to do that from scratch, which is nice. If you don't go down the path we talked about earlier, which is ad hoc adding channel partners. The last thing is the test market, before you go all in on the strategy. Yeah, so those are the benefits. The risks are, if you haven't done this before, you're going to go to your contact database, you're going to go to your Rolodex, and you're going to just start signing people up with no real end goal in mind, no KPIs, no objectives. And then at the end of the year, look back and go, well, that channel program didn't work, we're going to can it. And then a year later, you'll start it over again. Yeah. And we see that happen quite often.
With the new leader of your channel program, because they blame it on that guy. They might not have executive leadership, but they blame it on the
right.
That's a great point, because one of the things that we tell our clients, especially the C pluses and the A's, is okay. Let's work together, figure this out before you go all in on hiring a full-time channel chief. Right? I mean, one of the things that David and I, when we're talking to our clients, is we'll stay with them until we're ready to hand it over to a full-time channel chief. Why would you want to take that financial burden initially when you don't even have a plan? Let us come in and help you figure out, do the assessment, do the test market. Yes, it looks like it's something that's going to happen and will work, and we'll build the program and then tee it up for that FTE channel leader to come in and take it from there.
Let's talk a little bit more about that, because the industry, I keep seeing more and more of these fractional channel leaders in the industry. I know of a guy that all they do is provide fractional cams. That's his whole business.
Sure.
How did we get there? I mean, I think I kind of understand why people would hire the two of you as fractional channel leaders, right? Because you're smart, you've got a lot of experience. But how did we get to the point where fractional is sort of the route at first?
I think people have consultant burnout. We'll go into several opportunities for our company, and people will say, well, we've had consultants before and it didn't work out that great, and we're paying them this much money, and all we've got is some advisory out of them. So I think the big inflection point between consulting and fractional is that we get our hands dirty.
Yeah.
So we're not McKinsey guys. We're practitioners, and we come in and we say, okay, we're going to roll up our sleeves. And as Chip said earlier, we'll wear your polo shirt. We'll take your email address. We'll do the hard work, and we'll do the blocking and tackling stuff. So it's not just advisory that we're providing, and the fractional people provide. They provide real services that your employees would provide normally. And I think the nice thing about fractional is it's so budget friendly, right? Because you're not going to pay the same amount of money for a fractional resource as you are even for a consultant that's getting $1,000 an hour or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think it's just more this flexibility for the time, the budget. The learning curve, is much easier because you're hiring these fractional people who are experts in what you want them to do. So there's not as big of a learning curve as hiring an FTE. So I think those are some of the benefits. Chip, do you want to add something?
I think too. I think another, and David mentioned the inflection point. I think a lot of it has to do with what has happened in the technology market over the last couple of years. Right, even before COVID, advisory was somewhat of a, you get Series A companies had money, they had a lot of money, so they would bring in, consultants to help them figure out something, but left it to somebody else to do the execution. Now, where the market has changed, the money has changed, these firms and their investors are looking for results. They're looking for execution. They're not necessarily looking for a recommendation. Sure, yes, a recommendation is great, but we need somebody to execute on that. And the fractional approach, like David said, is a much more cost-effective a way to get that execution resource in place right away. without having to go out and hire. You flip the switch and start tomorrow.
Yeah, it's so funny that you mentioned that. I was on a conversation yesterday with a very senior guy, actually, VP level channel guy, and he was saying, I bring in consultants a lot less than I used to, and I said, wow, why is that? And he said, well, they come in and they make the recommendations, and then I just end up with more to do.
You're right. Yeah.
It's so that's an important point. You're going in with all the same capability, but you're also going in with the willingness to fix the problem.
You got it.
And the beauty of that is then the CRO, the CMO, the CEO, the CTO, whatever, they can go focus on what their core business is. Right now, they're not part-time channel guys as well as doing their day job. They go focus on their day job, and now they've got a competent fractional team that can go handle the channel part of it.
And you said, Vaughn, you had asked earlier when we started, what is our secret sauce? Well, that's one of our secret sauces, if you will, is in fact that approach to engaging with our clients.
Yeah, that makes an awful lot of sense, actually. It's that makes total sense now. Okay, so let's we all know that the landscape has changed. I mean, fractional is one part of it, but if you look back 5 years ago, we had maybe 10, there were 1 million VARs laying around, right? And all they did, they had the different things they do as VARs. That's changed quite a bit, but really, I mean, what are you seeing now in that sort of partner landscape? I know that, when we talk about it as Mindmatrix, we talk about partners, we talk about alliances, but within all of that, there's 1 million different company types. What are you seeing there? What are the different types of channel partnerships, and how are they different than they used to be?
Sure. I mean, I don't know how much different they are than what they used to be. I think it's a matter of focusing, again, getting back to what our clients want in terms of results from their partners. So I think when, getting a reseller doesn't necessarily have to be a VAR per se, like when you think of a VAR in the cybersecurity VAR world versus some other, various technology industries, like for instance, industrial or whatever. You're dealing with software companies that are offering solutions. And I think the reseller is one area that a resell arrangement is still, I think, probably the best approach. And the reason is because the partner themselves, the partner that we're going out and recruiting themselves, has a lot more skin in the game, right? Yeah. That's the issue versus, let's say, they have to do sales training. Maybe a lot of them are going to do technical support level 1. So they got to be trained. They've got to, invest some of their own resources. So they have a little bit more skin in the game than, let's say, a referral partner, which is still great. That's more on an opportunistic standpoint, especially if you're dealing with some of the smaller technology firms as our clients, right? They're looking for, like David said, 2 ways for fulfillment. And another area, and I'll let David talk to this, is around technology partners that ultimately result in maybe private label relationship and licensing. I don't know if you want to chime in there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So if you think of it on a graduating scale, lower level partners, not meaning they aren't valuable, just meaning that they're not as responsible for as much of the, taking the purchase order and things like that. Our technology partners, which could be integrations, could be key to your business.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't classify them as classic channel partners, but why not, right? They may be bringing you business, which is great because you're integrated. The next level up is referral, as Chip mentioned. The next level up would be resell. The next level up from that is what we call private label or OEM. So that's where, we've had clients in the past where we've done deals with Microsoft or AT&T where they took the product and they private label it because they've got white space in their stack that they got to fill. And then we'll get multi-million-dollar commitments for that type of relationship up front. So there's a lot of different ways you can go. And I think the more strategic you are to the company, the closer you get to that company then having an M&A opportunity
Right.
with the partner. So, channel development in a lot of cases will lead to corporate development.
Yeah. So, and it goes back to when we're first engaged with our clients and doing the assessments, what are you thinking of? Are you looking at more of an operational channel partner strategy where, you want lead generation, sales, revenue, or are you looking at more of a strategic type strategy, which is ultimately get acquired, for example? So that helps really direct, back to the partner taxonomy again.
Yeah.
Is, who are you going to go after from a partner's perspective if you're looking for a strategic type partner strategy, which usually is, like David said, the white labeling, because you actually become part of their product, and then also, in all likelihood, has a better chance to result in acquisition if that's the ultimate goal of your
That's
client.
the goal. Yeah, that
Yep.
makes sense. So you bring in these different partner types, and I enjoyed hearing how you compartmentalize them, because it's a little bit different than, just are you a VAR, an MSP,
Sure.
are you a MS, SSP, or whatever. You've got all of these different partners, but how do you measure them? I mean, how do you measure the KPIs that kind of that show that you're having success in indirect sales, particularly as you've spun up these programs and the revenue's not there yet?
Right. Well, I think part of that, of course, revenue and leads are probably the top, but a lot of it as well has to do with channel productivity. Not only revenue and leads, but are they productive in terms of programs, joint? Are they proactive in building the joint value proposition, data sheets, webinars, that type of thing, right? So there's that activity that you want to see that partner partake in with our client. A lot of it too is channel satisfaction, right? Are we doing a good job or not? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Leads, revenue, one thing, but a great best practice is to solicit feedback from your partner ecosystem. Are you doing well? Are you doing not? And there's ways to do that. There's tools, there's platforms in which to do that, right? So that's really something that we always try to engage with our clients, partners with is that whole process around QBRs, weekly calls. Again, it all has to do with putting rigor around everything, and that's the hard work, but it does pay off.
I'm always interested in the tools that get wrapped around this. What, on the early stage programs like this, what are the tools that you're seeing and that they should consider as they're spinning up these programs?
Yeah, so I think I would call it channel conflict and mitigation. So there's two ways to look at it. If we don't have conflict, we don't have coverage, right? So an old channel saying. However, that's not good either, right? You don't want to have a lot of conflict. So how are you managing channel conflict between your direct team or your channel partners, for that matter? Right? So what kind of deal registration tools do you have in place? What kind of market development funds do you have in place? And then more importantly is, PRMs, or partner relationship management systems. So those have sprung up in the last, say, 10 to 15 years.
What's the tipping point for those with you guys? When should they start thinking about it, and when should they be ignoring it?
I think you implement a PRM as early as when you have your playbook put together, depending on your budget. How's that?
Okay. Yeah, that's really
political.
useful. Do you have any different view on that, Chip?
No, I don't actually. David and I were, as we were preparing for this podcast, we were discussing, some of these items, and again, PRM is different than a CRM. I've worked at a bunch of companies as a channel leader, partner leader, whatnot. And we always use Salesforce or HubSpot and it just is not the answer. You need it's a PRM and platform that has not only the tracking and capabilities, but the content management around being able to have that information readily available through a process and platform for your partners and all of those who necessarily need all that information. So that's
you're right, because you're not selling a tool, you're selling a business opportunity with a channel partner.
Yeah, an outcome basically.
You got it.
So we've just run out of time. I do want to ask one last question, and this should take you 10 seconds each. I really want you to just be very succinct. If you had to tell someone, take this thing away from this conversation, Chip, what would it be for you? 10 seconds or less.
Company alignment on a channel plan and perseverance.
All right.
Yep.
David, 10 seconds. What would you tell them to take away?
Yeah, channel development and programs don't happen overnight.
Nice.
Perseverance.
That's a good way to wrap it up. Guys, what a great conversation. We really appreciate you coming into our webcast. Thank you, and all the best of luck. It was very, very useful information. So thank you, and I'm sure we'll talk to you again soon on our webcast. So thank you.
Thank you very much, and have a great weekend, Vaughn.
Thanks, Vaughn.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.